So we're talking about the woman at the well. You see, this was a woman who was ostracized. She was put at the edge of society. I like to imagine she wakes up one morning and the other women in the town are passing by her window, but she can't walk with them. You see, she has to wait later in the day. And anyone in their right mind would not wait because they live in the desert and the sun gets hotter and hotter and hotter in the middle of the day. And that's why the other women, everybody goes to the well in the morning because you desperately need water throughout your day to cook, to clean, to wash your hands. But she had to wait to go alone. So as the day gets hotter and hotter, finally she decides it's time, it's safe for me to go outside. So she exits her door and she slips out the side, and she doesn't go the quick way through town, but she slips around town because if the people saw her, they would look at her, and those looks said everything. They would look at her and think, oh, the broken one. Ugh, the dirty one. She's the sinful one. She is the one that nobody wants around. She's the person who just keeps messing up. And every time she saw them look at her, her muscles would tighten up and she'd have a hard time breathing. As she slipped out of town, she made her way to the well. And as she got closer and closer, she saw a man and her muscles tightened up and it got harder and harder for her to breathe. Because she slipped out. She's in the middle of the day going to the well because it's the hottest time and nobody else should be there. And as she gets closer, it gets even harder to breathe because she quickly realizes that he is a Jewish teacher. And Jews and Samaritans do not mix. Jews hate Samaritans and Samaritans hate Jews. That's the way it's been for hundreds of years, and that's the way it is right now. And as she approaches the well, she's just trying to get her water that she desperately needs and trying to avoid the gaze of the man who's sitting at the well. And that's where our story opens in John chapter 4, verse 12. It says, as she's speaking, well, you know what? I want to back up because Jesus begins to talk to her. As she's drawing her water, Jesus in verse 10, I'm sorry, you're not going to see it on the screen because I'm changing it a little bit, but he says, if you knew the gift of God, what he has for you, and who you're speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. As she's drawing out of the well, trying to get the water that she desperately needs, Jesus, this Jewish teacher, looks at her and he says, I can give you something better. Verse 11 says, but sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket, she says, and this well is very deep. Where would you get living water? Verse 12, what you'll see on the screen, and besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? And Jesus replies, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I will give them will never be thirsty. Can you imagine what she was thinking? Every day it was miserable to go in the hottest part of the day to get water that she desperately needs. She's thinking, if there's water I can drink once and I never have to go back, I need that. And Jesus continues. Verse 14, but those who drink the water I give them will never be thirsty again. It becomes fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Verse 15, she says, please, sir, please give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here in the middle of the day. I can finally just stay in my home and avoid everybody else, the people who've hurt me, the people who've been rude to me, the people who've bullied me. Please give me this water. And Jesus says something very unexpected. He says in verse 16, go and get your husband. Verse 17, I don't have a husband, the woman replied. Jesus said, you're right, you don't. You don't have a husband. You've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married. Yeah, I know. It's like, whoa, Jesus, what are you doing? We're going to talk about that. He said, for you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. Let me point out something. Jesus is not dissing this woman. What is Jesus doing? What he's wanting to do, Mix, is he's wanting to give her rest. Because this woman thinks that if she can have this living water, she never has to come to the well again. When Jesus sees her, he sees someone who can't rest because of the brokenness in her heart. And Jesus wants to give her freedom, not just from having to go get water every day. He wants to give her freedom of the burdens that she's been carrying for her entire life. He wants to give her rest. And so he goes to the deepest part of her brokenness, the deepest part of her burdens, the deepest part of her hurt. And he says, I know, and I love you. They continue to have a conversation at the well. As she's carrying her jars that are now full of water, the reason she came here, she came here because she desperately was in need of water, but now things are starting to change. You see, Jesus begins to talk with her about who he is. He begins to talk to her that he's someone greater than just a Jewish teacher. He's more than just a Jewish guy. He's somebody who is here. Oh, sorry, Siri's talking to me. He's someone who's here who wants to give her rest, give her living water, give her freedom. And in that moment, he explains that he's everything she could ever need. In that moment, Jesus told her she was valuable, that she had worth, that she was forgiven of the things that defined her for so long. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the gospel tonight, but I want you to see her reaction when she has an encounter with her good shepherd. In verse 28, it says, the woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village telling everyone. Why did she come to the well in the middle of the day? It was to get water. And what did she leave behind? Her jars of water. Why? Because she got what she needed more than anything else. She thought she desperately needed water, but what she found out when she came to the well that brought everyone together, that Jesus is the real well that gives living water, that gives rest. He's not just the living water. He's the good shepherd that's going to lead us to quiet streams so we can get water the rest of our lives. And she left her waters, her jars of water, beside the well, and she ran back to the village telling everyone, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this possibly be the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for, the one sent from God who's going to rescue the whole world? Could this be the one? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. What did the woman do when she had an encounter with her good shepherd? She couldn't help but drop the things that she thought she needed and go and tell everyone. What I want you to hear more than anything else tonight is this, Mix. You can rest because your good shepherd offers you eternal life. In that moment, Jesus offered her more than what she thought she needed. He offered her eternal life, and that's worth dropping everything over. You can rest because your good shepherd offers you eternal life. What I love about this scene is it's a scene that takes place at a well. In a culture where Samaritans and Jews were divided, similar to the Catholics and Protestants over in Ireland. You see, walls divide, but wells bring people together. They bring people to Jesus. And I want us to turn our attention back to the screen and see if Mallory ever found that well. Check this out.